Hey guys, this is the April 2016 Mage Class Wars Finals in Warriors Hall. So this is my perspective. We'll see some other players in Warlords Hall coming up soon. And just looking at the beginning of this video, I'm sort of kicking myself just for the fact that I'm so oblivious to the things that I keep. So anyway, I have enough stuff in my bags for another piece of knighthood gear, and I just haven't made it. So I've just been, I just alternate each day, which MP I do, and I wasn't really looking at how much I have of the stuff apparently, because I've been able to make another piece of gear for looks like over a week now, since this was about a week or so ago for Class Wars. So anyway, just me being oblivious as usual. So as far as Sylphs go, this should look very familiar. I have Goddess Prosperity as my main Sylph, and then a Medusa and Frigga as my troops. So really just pushing for the wind elemental aspect, and then a little bit different because I have Panda in the mix. I forget that last month maybe I did bring the kid. With knighthood, it's pretty much everything will go to nothing will go to timer. There's very little of that. I did have one fight in prelims that went to timer, but overall it's just usually somebody will get a kill. And so I decided to go ahead and keep Panda in the mix. The Centauria really is pretty helpful. A lot of people do have knight kids, and some bring archers, like Red Widow here. And archers are pretty useful because they can use incendiary shot, which will be a damage reduction skill, or they'll use Apollo Shield on the knights, and so those are both pretty useful. The knights in particular are pretty good because they have the rage steal, and so rage is so precious, and we're obviously starting out with not very much of it right now. So for me, it's pretty low, 30 something initial rage, maybe a bit higher with the medallion and whatnot, but yeah, so not starting out great there. I didn't think it was a huge deal not having that rage for Class Wars. Later on, I'll show a video of me upping my clothing level quite a bit, just because I think for group play it's a little too frustrating not having that rage. And so I think the biggest change here, other than keeping the kid, and then obviously the patch related stuff, we have the Titan here, which will cast automatically. I have to use a turn on that Titan skill thing, shield, right after I cast my first skill. But I think the big difference, actually the one that feels the weirdest to me, is the Chaos Rune. And I've been so anti-Chaos Rune over the years, and so the fact that I'm actually using one in a relatively serious manner in a Class Wars Finals situation is pretty surprising to me, even to me. I think anybody who knows how I like to play and sort of my leanings would find that surprising as well. But I did try this in preliminaries, and it feels about right. There are a couple aspects to the Chaos Rune that I do like. I think it's so at the beginning. Everybody has a kid now, or pretty much everybody brings their kid now. There's not a lot of dropping the kid in order to win on the timer, just because the fights generally don't go to timer. So there's that. So it's better in the beginning now, because there's pretty much a guarantee that it'll get in the way, and that they'll probably, between 3 turns with a chaos, probably at least one of them they'll be hitting their own kid. And then another aspect is Lightbringer. So before, the best skill that you could probably chaos from early on is maybe a Centauria when we had regular skills. And now Lightbringer is a huge factor, and if you're going to use Lightbringer, or your opponent's going to use Lightbringer, they're probably going to do it in one of the earliest turns if they have the rage for it, and so if you can chaos one of those, it's very nice. So here I don't get a lot of opponents, or really any opponents, that use Lightbringer, and so that's just how things worked out. But in Warlords Hall, for sure, there are people who like to use it. you know, we saw that with Asher and prelims, and probably some other people, and for sure in my videos previously of Warlords Hall, there's several people who take that strategy, and you can end up, you know, chaosing one of the Lightbringers and getting a lot of awakening points from it. The other aspect that's good about the Chaos Rune is if you chaos somebody, so here, well, it's a little bit hard to tell when they're using Thor, but when somebody's chaosed and they're up against somebody in my situation, like here, where there's myself and the 2 Sylph troops, so if their kid were still in the mix, there's a chance that they'll hit their own kid, but you know, Ariel's kid was dead by then. But there's still a chance that if she had used an AoE, so if she had Odin or Frigga or, you know, another Sylph that uses AoEs, there's still a chance that the AoE will miss one of my troops, or me, actually. So that's sort of a nice part of Chaos, is there is a chance that you won't be able to kill off all of the troops as easily. I think I might show that. Somebody else might chaos me somewhere later in one of these fights, so we'll keep an eye out for it. But Chaos, it's... Yeah, I'm not going to admit that it was a good idea once upon a time, but at least now I am, you know, warmer to the idea of using a Chaos Rune, clearly. So I got another person using Thor, very, very popular Sylph. And it really makes sense to me now. I think before, when we didn't have knighthood, I didn't think Thor was a particularly good idea in class wars, other than just having a resistance advantage or an elemental advantage. But now, you know, with the reduced res so high and the res not really being able to keep up with it, I really think Thor does a nice job and just hits so hard. Have beautiful bot here, and she's using Frigga as her main, and then her Sylph troops are, let's see here, oh, her Goddess of Prosperity is on her kid, which is sort of odd, but the troops are Odin and Poseidon, so a very, very different setup than what we usually see. Frigga is not a bad choice, I suppose. I think the hardest part about, you know, using Frigga as your main when you only have one of them is just the fact that you don't get Frigga as a troop then, and Frigga really is the best troop. So that's a little bit difficult. Oh, I think she might have just given me that shield. I don't know. Was that my troop? Oh, I lost track of it. But yeah, and then also, you know, Frigga is all magical attack, and mages have so much MDef that unless you're really confident about your reduce res and your attack stat, it's a little bit hard to pick that Sylph. I mean, even if your reduce res is good, you know, most mages don't bring a lot of water resistance. For sure, I drop some of my water crystals, you know, to try and you know, use those slots to sort of even out my resistances if I have any imbalances. So yeah, not my favorite choice, but probably works out okay for her in the rest of this. I don't remember where she ended up ranking. Here's another fight with Darkmere, a server mate of mine, and he's actually one of my toughest opponents. This is as close as I get to dying, and it's obviously very close. Saved a bit by Frigga, so, you know, Frigga, I have set to use the heal, the first skill, and so that's obviously a very nice choice in this fight, where I was in big trouble. So Frigga gives me a little, just enough to save me for a while, and then I got to the heal rune. And we get Ariel again. So, you know, one characteristic of just how the pairing works in Warriors Hall is that, you know, you'll get paired with people who are in a similar win pool as you are, so, or similar record. So all the people with a certain number of wins will face each other. As I start to win more and more, I start to separate from the pack, and so whoever sort of doing the best out of the other players usually ends up facing me next, and In Ariel's case, I think that really hurts her. She ends up facing me quite a few times. I think it's between her and Darkmere who I see the most, but I think there's probably one or two people that I see, one or two more people that I see multiple times. But it means that she's doing well against the other players, as she should with the Thor and the nice Sylph troops and everything. You know, I'm not sure, you know, quite what the factor is. You know, my damage increase is only, you know, plus 17%. So it's not like my reduced res is so overwhelming. It's not something crazy. It's good, but it's not perfect by any means. So you know, I'm not totally sure what exactly it is about my setup where I'm really dealing quite a bit of damage to everybody. There's really no exception to the rule. So it's either my attack stat or, I mean, I guess it has to be my attack stat. I really doubt that everybody decided to have really crappy wind resistance. That's not the case usually here. Everybody protects against wind a little. Yeah, getting beautiful bot again. And that time she does get the shield. Tried to get that chaos in, sneak it in before she could heal or whatever, and didn't quite work out. Well, okay, so against Beautiful Bot, I'm getting a plus 33% damage in Sylph mode. So maybe it is the reduced res. Here we go with Darkmere. It is just sort of a rotation through these guys, isn't it? After that first, I guess it was the second fight where he does really pretty well. I adjusted a bit. I think he must have, you know, done a better job of it by the time he fought me the second time, and so I was feeling a little bit more careful here. And the kid makes it to that heal. One of the factors, I'm not, you know, totally keeping track of the timer. Before, it would take exactly 38 seconds for people to be able to get into Sylph mode, so there's no Lightbringer involved or anything. It would take exactly 38 seconds. But now I feel like it's always switching up a little bit, and that's because of the Mage passive. So we have passives that have the potential to take away, again, pretty close here. So had I had a bad deflect or something there, I could have been in trouble. But yeah, so because of the passives and being able to take away some awakening points with each attack, it seems like it's taking a bit longer to get into Sylph mode if nobody's using Lightbringer. And Lightbringer here, you know, I mentioned this in prelims, but my Lightbringer is only at level 1, and so really I just use it as something like, if we end up going through the whole Sylph mode and I get out second, it's something I'll use to try and keep up to make sure that I can get back into Sylph mode again. But as far as the initial, you know, time to get into Sylph mode, I don't really push to use Lightbringer. Also here, I don't have the rage to do it, so it's just not gonna happen. Maybe in the future I can try and get away with that because I'll have more initial rage now that I up my clothing, but at least at the time that wasn't the case. I think this might be round 3 or 4 with Ariel. Might be 4. That's harsh. Oh, another one. So if that wasn't... Okay, so maybe this is the 4th one. It just feels like I've seen a lot of her. Poor thing. I was talking to Darkmere at some point in World Chat, too, and he wasn't too happy about seeing me multiple times either, but... I mean, again, if you see me a lot in this situation, it means that you're doing well. So, I guess it's not all bad. At the same time, you know, even though I'm sure this is frustrating for players who get stuck in a bad situation with this pairing system, I still think it's better than whatever the game does for Titan Warriors Hall, which is just that the top players almost never see each other, and so you end up with a lot of people with undefeated, I mean, at least a lot for a tournament. It's weird how many people end up, or how many teams end up undefeated, and then it just goes by BR. So I don't think that's a better solution than what we have here in Class Wars. I think this is actually the way you probably should do it. Here I am, three wins ahead of second place. It looked like Darkmere was in second at the time. His BR is pretty nice, so if he's tied up with people, he should be in a good situation. And in the beginning of this fight, Kuta ends up getting a chaos on me, so I end up chaosing the kid and not getting my Centauria. Kuta I actually lost in preliminaries and went to timer, and I wasn't super happy about that at all. And so this time around, I'm looking for the win. You know, with prelims, I'm definitely not in my best setup. I'm in my highest BR setup, using my Dark Sylph, and then, you know, just the way I have the troops set up and everything. It is a very high BR setup, but it's not necessarily the best setup. I still much prefer using a Wind Sylph in Class Wars, and so I feel much more powerful in this situation. So I'm less concerned about this going to timer. And there we go. So one big hit will do it. You know, when I see that big of a hit, I have to wonder. I can't imagine it's just, you know, purely, oh, I'm, you know, super powerful. I don't think that's it. One of the weird things is that even though we have these chance-based things with Fate, like, God, what's it called? The word's not coming to me, but the Fate system has some chance-based things that, you know, can possibly increase the amount of damage that we deal, and so, you know, none of those things show up physically in the damage shown here. So I could crit, and it could be something that looks normal, and, you know, it'll be big, but it's not crazy. And then once in a while you crit, and you're like, whoa, that was a lot. And I'm pretty sure it's the Fate stuff that's, you know, proccing, but there's no indication like, hey, something just, you know, made you deal a lot more damage than usual. It's the same with the card bonuses and stuff like that. Here up against Ariel. She had that chaos on me, and that's why it's taking longer for me to kill the troops. So this is the fight that I was actually thinking of. You know, with the chaos on me, I didn't hit her troops with some of my AoEs, so it took a bit. Luckily, with the Wind Sylph, obviously I have a lot of AoEs. So there we are. I end up undefeated, and the next winners, you know, sort of file through with by BR, and Ray 7 ends up taking another victory, and so we'll be able to see Ray and everybody else through Feelendale's point of view. Feel ended up recording everything, so I think that'll be good. He's really performed well over the last month, so even though it's a tough crowd, I'm sure it'll still be interesting. And so here we are with the rankings. So Ray takes first. Zard Oz, which you know, who crushed me pretty badly, ended up in second, you know, ahead of Asher, who had the same record, but Zard has much more BR, and anyway, so big congratulations to everybody who placed, and for me, I mean, satisfactory as far as Warriors Hall goes. Can't get much better than that. And so yeah, so we'll see Mr. Strife, who took first among the archers, so I guess that's a little bit of a spoiler. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Take care, and have a very good day.